Hey there, welcome to our podcast, Simply Be Kind. If this is your first time listening, this podcast is a series of conversations with people about kindness. We hope that today's episode inspires you to do one kind thing today because it's easy to simply be kind. I want you to close your eyes and imagine this with me. We're climbing up the mountains. We see sunrises and sunsets along the way. We walk through harsh weather, and yet we feel the most complete we've ever been. What they say about nature being healing is absolutely true. Being with nature helps you find the person you were supposed to be. I have with me two guests, Shannon Fernandes, who is the co founder and CMO at Vagabond Experiences. I also have Srujan, who runs tours at Tour de Outdoors. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Today, we're going to speak about two experiences, land and sea. Shannon has had some wonderful experiences guiding people on treks on the mountain, while Srujan has had similar experiences. He also has had the opportunity of diving in the beautiful oceans of Trikomali in Sri Lanka. So, this conversation is certainly going to be diverse. So, Shannon, let's start with you. What is an average experience of trekking with you like?
A trek with us is a very welcoming experience for beginners and amateur hikers. None of our experiences need technical know how, and that makes it all the more diverse and welcoming for anyone looking to explore an interpersonal experience with a bunch of strangers.
And who do you think is most likely to do a trip to the mountains like the ones that you've had?
So, we have a lot of solo travelers who join us because they're tired of waiting on their friends who keep canceling, but they eventually have a great time because of the people they meet. And we also get a bunch of people who have just like probably quit their job and want a break away from city life. They tell us, and I quote, it was a long time coming. But most of the solo travelers end up joining us solo again because they realize that they found a certain warmth and kindness in strangers that was not something they expected earlier. So the experience feels pretty cathartic to them.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people say that cutting yourself off from nature may make you be unkind to yourself and others, but does the opposite happen when you're up in the mountain? Have you seen that happening?
What I've noticed is people are mostly courteous at first because they don't know you, but they will take the effort to say hi and pull a chair for you to sit on. But towards the end, the relationship becomes a lot more meaningful, and people are kinder to strangers because the barriers change, right? So people open up when they see others open up, compared to in regular life when you meet a stranger on the road, for example. But I think that when you're in nature, there are a lot less strings attached to what can stimulate you. So, like everything is raw and pure in the sense that it's really simplistic pleasures. And the pleasures we can seek and find in the great outdoors, so to say, are not adulterated with the pressures of our daily life. And in my opinion, that invokes a higher sense of kindness towards the people around us too.
And what about you? Like, what has you, I mean, you've been in and out of the mountains for so long. Has that impacted you in any way?
Uh, Personally, I've noticed that leading groups of diverse people with different backgrounds and different endurance levels has made me a lot more patient and accepting of others who may not be like me. And after doing this for almost 10 years, I've realized that this is second nature to me now. Like empathy and kindness isn't something I choose to express on a daily basis. Vagabond has helped make me this person on a daily basis too. So to add to that, because I get to also learn these qualities in nature, it helps me be kinder and a lot more grateful for what we've been given on this planet. And the mountains are something different altogether. When you climb to the top, you get to view everything. And I take a moment to stop, look around, and reflect. Like it doesn't really matter how many times I've been to the same place, every trip is different. And you don't have distractions like phones, right? So it really makes you stop, pause, and feel peaceful mentally. And you literally just focus on your steps as you're climbing a mountain. So it's impossible not to feel a sense of awe and interconnectedness when you study the shifting shapes above you, so to say.
That's amazing. Srujan, do you feel the same way? Have you had the same experiences on your trips?
Yeah, so what he said echoes with me. Uh, we also trek with bare minimum and yet sufficient materials. So it brings us close to that appreciation about everything around us and not to take anything for granted. And it also changes me personally as a different person. After every trek, people would often ask me, "Are you okay? You seem a lot more different." And it's just generally I'm calm. I'm appreciating even small things like a glass of water, etc. And yeah, that's a very transformation for me. Yeah.
Wow, that actually sounds quite amazing. So I've had some experience just stargazing, being under the stars, and I felt kinder in that moment. And I know that it helps you feel kinder because you don't just think about yourself, it's everything in the world. And there's nothing like just gazing at the stars to make your personal problems feel really insignificant. Shannon, do you think that's true?
I've often heard of this idea that looking at the night sky can make your existence feel insignificant. And like like people say, right, we're just a speck of dust in this galaxy. But funnily enough, I've felt the exact opposite. I have been exploring and experiencing the gigantic Himalayas for around 8 years now. And every time I look at them, the awe I feel isn't exactly existential. Rather, I feel more meaningful. And I draw a sense of purpose and empowerment to the life I live, the people I love. I feel like everything matters, like every conversation and every breath.
Wow, that sounds really beautiful. Like I can almost imagine myself being there. But yeah, I actually want to look at um, look at the sea now. So, Srujan, can you talk us through what experiencing a dive was like? Because you did go on a dive recently.
Yeah. So I'll be glad to. I As soon as I jumped into the ocean, right? I have to close my eyes when I'm jumping, and as soon as I close my eyes, it takes maybe a couple of seconds to adjust to the new normal world, and there is no sound. The sound of silence is and the vision being vision of vastness. It's like it almost makes me forget that I'm inside water. The only sound that I would hear is my own breathing. And I slowly go to the sea floor and see some schools of fish hovering around, and they're all unbothered by my experience in that way. And uh, because of my breathe sound and due to the silence, it almost feels like I'm in an orchestra of silence, if I may put. And as we come up slowly, the moment I hit the surface, it's like uh, when I enter the boat back, and there is absolute silence from me. Like even though I'm out of the world, mentally I'm still there. Yeah, it's a beautiful experience that way. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember our first call where I spoke to you and I asked, and you were talking about your experience, but you were hesitating a little. You were telling me that I don't know how diving can be kind, but I mean, you explained it yourself that being in nature is so humbling that it forces you to be kind. Like when we're out at restaurants or we're at the wedding, and sometimes, especially at weddings, where people always find something to complain about, like the place was too far away or the food wasn't up to the standards or like the vibes were off or something like that. But in nature you don't do that and you can't do that because once you're in there, nature has this really beautiful way of just stripping away all cynicism and just focus on the good. Like I'm sure you didn't cry about how far you had to swim in the water or how there wasn't enough fish in the ocean, like you just existed.
Yeah, definitely. So I think due to my experience in mountains, I went to ocean without any expectations per se. It was just calm, serene, and it was therapeutic in a different way for me.
Nice.
I think, in my opinion, an experience that is like cut off from our daily lives and more in sync with being present wherever we are. In my case, like a hike in the mountains, most definitely instills kindness that is not usually felt or seen in like our city lives. So I've been lucky enough to do this for a living for almost a decade, and I can very evidently see the value it brings to me on a daily basis as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is really, I mean, I don't know if you can tell by the smile on my face, but I've had a really good experience being on this podcast and just listening to both of you speak. And I kind of waited until the end of the episode to reveal this, and because usually most of my episodes are about situations I've experienced, I am not a trekker. Like, I am not someone, I can't swim. I'm not going to go under the water, nor am I going to climb up the mountains. You know, the closest experience I've had to like nature is just like camping or just being under the stars. And that has also been like a beautiful experience. But this conversation is still giving me a little bit of FOMO. Like, Shannon, when you took me to the mountains, and then Srujan, when you told me how you were one with the fishes. And I think, yeah, it's certainly like a humbling experience that I want to have. And I do want to like just find moments where I can be more with nature and just sort of end up being kinder to other people. So, yeah, with that, we are at the end of the episode. And I'd like to thank both of you all for coming here. It really has been a very insightful and a very inspiring episode to be on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for listening to the Simply Be Kind podcast. This is actually the last episode in the podcast series of Simply Be Kind. I'm so glad that we got to have this full circle moment where the first episode was all about traveling and being kind, and the last episode was also about traveling and how nature can help us be kind. As sort of a last hurrah, we'd appreciate if you could rate and review the episode and the podcast series because it helps more listeners find the show and really listen to the conversations we've had over the past 2 years. It's taken a lot of effort to create each episode, where each episode goes under production for a month. So your engagement really helps. And be sure to check out our page, Kind Hearts Brigade, on social media, where we aim to have more conversations surrounding everyday kindness. We do a bunch of other things, so please check us out there as well. Do check out our other episodes throughout the Simply Be Kind podcast because there have been some great conversations, and I'd love to hear what episodes in the past that you've really liked. And much love from us from Kind Hearts Brigade. Have a great day.